evening. Welcome to the regular meeting of the Historic Review Board for March 26, 2024. Call the meeting to order now, and
I take your shirt next.
Hello, R2.
hello. There you go. Am I good?
R1.
Okay. Sorry. I'll do that again. Welcome to this regular meeting of the Historic Review Board for March 26, 2024. This is the call to order, and roll call, please.
Board Member Gordon Lawrence.
Present, and just a note, I've got to take off a little bit early this evening, so in regards to the agenda with solar panels, I'm pretty much in line with what Sabrina was saying last time, so I think, and I'm new, and I'm here to learn, so we're kind of going to flow with that. And as for the window agenda tonight, I'm going to stick through that until we're done with that, and then I'm probably going to excuse myself a bit early.
Okay. Thank you.
Board Member Paul Edgar.
Here.
Board Member Robert Green.
Here.
And Board Member Timothy Powell.
Here. We are supposed to be having a swearing-in ceremony, but our swearer is not here, so we'll get moving forward. Do we have any public comment not related to anything on the agenda this evening? I see none, so we'll move on to the first public hearing, and I will read our...
Oh, we do have the preservation grant before that. The preservation grant is first.
Oh, we're doing the grant first? Okay, then. Let's do the grant first.
All right. Cindy, can you open up the PowerPoint? It's a very simple one-page or PowerPoint
Preservation
slide.
Grant PG 24-01, 819 7th Street.
Yeah.
And that is for window repair.
Yeah. Okay, so this is our preservation grant program for new folks out there. The Historic Review Board gives out 5 $1,000 grants a year for mainly siding and window repair, though sometimes foundation and other structural repairs or missing elements and porch repair. The applicant this evening is for a lovely house on 7th Street, 8197, the Henry Hornshoe House, I think. The proposal is some window repair. This is a new owner, and this is kind of the first thing she wants to tackle as she moves in. She received 2 bids. The bid she wants to move forward is Jeffrey Fran's bid. We've worked with Mr. Franz over the life of the grant, and he is a consummate preservation professional. He'll be working on rehanging weights and opening the windows. This is a 50-50 matching grant, so the work will be completed post-approval and will be a reimbursement grant. To the applicant, work needs to be completed by June 30th. In other applications, the board has the option to allow additional grant monies up to 50-50 matching grant if there is money left over in the grant fund for this fiscal year. So that's something that the board can look at in their approval this evening. The applicant is here. I don't know if she has anything else to add, but is available for any questions the board may have.
Okay. Would the applicant like to come on up to the table? Thank you.
Yeah.
And
Green light.
Hello. My name is Keishan by Sandy. I just got this lovely house. I'm very, very excited. But I need to fix everything because the house, everything you can see, you cannot see, everything's broke. So right now in this house has like around 12 windows, but none of the window could be open. So I do need some fresh air. So I need to fix all this window. For the upstairs window, they told me they are unable to fix. I have to custom order and replace the whole window, which will cost around at least $2,500. I don't have money now, so I'm not going to do it. But for all the downstairs window right now, my goal is I wish I can use 2 to 3 years to make each window able to be open. So right now, I want to hire Jeff he quoted me around $300 per each window, even though today he tried to add more money. But the other company called me $375 for each window, just fix it, not replace it. So I wish I can get the grant money, start the project.
Okay, great. We're going to put a hold on this for just a second. If you're not ready yet.
It just takes a little more effort.
I noticed that. We'll come to you.
Well, I can come there, I just have to have the scooter.
Okay, before we move on, if you'll just a moment, we're going to do this ceremony because the mayor has to leave, so we will do.
It takes me longer to do everything. I left the house at 20 till 7.
And this is a swearing-in ceremony for our new.
Paul in too. He's got a new term. He was just appointed.
What?
I don't know.
I think that he does.
I don't think we've done that before.
Well, he was appointed at the same time as my appointee.
I don't think we've done reappointment.
Oh, okay, well, I had to do planning commission for one, but that's okay.
Yeah.
Okay, this is the oath of office for our new Historic Review Board member, Gordon Lawrence.
Sorry. Yeah, there's your blue pen.
Yeah, we have to, this is where you sign your life away. Did you know that? Ours. So nice to see you. Thank you so much.
You did read.
Thank you, guys. I'm just a little, as you can see, physical.
Okay.
Are you ready?
Yeah, let's,
Okay, I'm gonna let you hold the mic.
do you have the knife?
Yeah. Okay. That's from the back. Can you kind of get me from the waist, can you get us from the waist up rather than the scooter?
Yeah.
When we're done, we get the picture. Yeah, we get to go. Yeah. Okay, so, repeat after me.
I,
Your name,
Gordon Lawrence,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Oregon,
and the Constitution of the State of Oregon,
along with the Oregon City Municipal Code and Charter.
along with the Oregon City Municipal Code and Charter.
I will, to the best of my ability,
I will, to the best of my ability,
faithfully perform the duties
of
of the Historic Review Board, as a Historic Review Board member during my incumbency thereof.
as a Historic Review Board member during my incumbency thereof.
Congratulations.
All right.
You are now official, even though I did the appointment.
One more. Okay, I gotta position this just right. All right, there we go. 1, 2, 3.
Well, you have a good angle, right?
Yes. There's no scooter.
Thank you for your service. Congratulations, Paul, on your reappointment. We'll sign this and then I'll get out of your hair.
Do we do that?
Yep. Oh. You get to keep one and then the other. Oh, watch out, there's a little thing right there. And, oh God. For our constituents. I'm signing my life away too, by the way, just so that. I also, yep. Just so you know, it's not just all about you. It's all about you. And you get to keep your signature.
I went to law school.
Well, so did I, so what's your excuse?
I went to medical school.
Oh, okay. I didn't go to law school.
She had surgery. Yeah, on her ankle, I think, or something, foot or ankle. Oh, yeah, like last week. And so, like 3 weeks, she dragged herself.
Anyway, yes. Thank you so much. All right, thank you. Appreciate it. I have crutches in the car. That's how I get around without this.
Do you need help?
No. The door is open.
Oh.
It's got the push
I would
button.
have to hit escape. Sounds good.
Thank you, Mayor McGriff.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Thank you, everybody, for your service.
Okay.
All right, moving on. We heard from the applicant. Right, is there anything, that's you, anything else you'd like to add?
No.
Okay, all right. Do we have any questions of the applicant right now
Oh,
from the
actually-
board?
Actually, I have.
Oh, yes, go ahead.
one more question. So as you can see that picture, I have a garage there. But that garage door is wood, but it's totally really bad shape, unable to open, use it. So I asked a couple company give me a bid to change the garage door. But everybody asked me this question, is this door must be wood or can be, looks like wood, but not wood?
You want to handle that?
I think this is really a type 1 staff decision,
Yeah.
so we can take a look to see if we can approve it on a staff level. That's, a fiberglass option, or if it needs to be wood, but the applicant can work with our staff
Great,
to figure
thank you.
that out.
So Christina will talk to you about that, because that's a decision that she can make. Okay,
Generally, if it's a accessory building that's detached and pretty, utilitarian, a fiberglass door that really resembles wood is often approved, because those are the ones that can open. Because often these wood doors need to be
that is acceptable? Okay.
But we'd have to really look at the fiberglass to see if it
And it
really
has
looks
to-
like wood.
Yeah, and it needs to look traditional. Okay. Any questions of the applicant from this board?
I'd like to know with the bid that you're leaning towards with Jeffrey Franz, you said that was a replacement, correct?
No, it's fixed
It's
each
fixing.
window, just let me open it.
Okay.
Only the upstairs, you can see the picture upstairs, Alex, that window, everybody said no way to fix. It had to be replaced, but it's too expensive for me for right now. So I'm still thinking what to do. For future, I probably need a customer order a big window.
Okay, and then the second bid from Chosen, that is a replacement or a fix?
All replace, none of that is, no, all fixed window, none of that
Okay, so
replacement.
both bids are to fix the window, not
Yeah,
replace the window?
fix already very expensive.
Yes, okay, thank you.
So one nice thing about, which we try to recommend to applicants, is doing actually what this application is, which is little bites. So coming in with, smaller projects every year, because some people see the cost even to repair every historic window, and they think, I can't afford that, but taking little bites each time, and that's what this kind of small grant program is. So the applicant very well can come back this next year, maybe for the replacement window if it can't be repaired, or 2 or 3 more windows, and that's really the goal.
Okay, thank you.
I would move to approve.
So you would move, okay,
To
to approve.
approve the PG 24-01 for window repair grant.
We have a second.
Would this be, and right now there's only 2,000. If the applicant was able to get like one more window in, on the, the same, from Jeffrey, would the board be amenable to allow, continue a 50-50 match? Or if it became, more than 2,000 to allow the match up to?
Right, so how would you like that we'll have to put that in your motion?
You could say to support window repair up to 50% match by the end of the
To
year.
50% match.
Up to 50% match by the end of the fiscal year.
And if there's additional funding at the end of
And if
the year,
it could be applied by the June 1st or June 30th date.
okay,
Okay?
that's okay with you?
Yeah.
All right, we got a second, Santa first, I have a motion. Okay, all in favor, I guess I'll let you do that. You want to call for the vote?
Do you want me to call? Okay. Board Member Edgar,
Aye, yes.
Board Member Green,
Aye.
Board Member Lawrence,
Aye.
and Board Member Powell.
Aye. Thank you very much, you're good to go.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay,
Let me I'll get it for you.
now we are going to, okay.
Yes.
Ready? Okay, this is the we are now into a public hearing, so I'm going to read our script here. This is GLUA 23-00041 and HR 23-00012, proposal to replace windows on the Petzold Richard building located at 714 Main Street downtown. It is scheduled tonight. Our role is to conduct the public hearing and to make decisions about the matter before us. In making those decisions, we must apply the applicable laws and codes and cannot vary from or change those laws or codes. Members of the Historic Review Board are to be unbiased. Before the start of the hearing, I will ask the Historic Review Boards whether they have any potential conflicts, such as family, financial, or business relationships with any of the applicants or with regard to the land in question. I will also ask whether any of the Historic Review Boards members have discussed the application in question with any of the parties or have independent knowledge of relevant facts, such as from a visit to the site in question. Any member of the audience may question any Historic Review Board member about their disclosures. A staff report has been prepared for each application and has been made available to the public 7 days before the first public hearing. The staff report identifies the approval criteria that apply to each applicant's proposal. Staff has analyzed the criteria which are contained in the staff report. The quasi-judicial hearing procedure that the Historic Review Board will follow is set out in state law and the Oregon City Municipal Code. The hearing procedure steps are shown on the Historic Review Board website. Public testimony will be called on in the order it was requested in advance of the meeting. If you have not emailed city staff to request to speak and would like to testify, please raise your virtual or physical hand when I ask if there are any others in the audience who would like to participate. For the public record, please begin all testimony stating your name and the city of residence. If you would like to receive a copy of the notice of decision, please state your mailing address or email address. Testimony and evidence should be directed toward the applicable approval criteria. If you believe other criteria apply in addition to those addressed in the staff report, identify and discuss those criteria and explain how and why you believe they apply to the application under consideration. Any person may submit written material while the public record is open on each application. Any written materials received by the city staff during the time period in which the record is open will be placed in the record. Written materials submitted during the public hearing must be presented to the city staff in order to become part of the record. If a person intends for PowerPoint presentations, reports, pictures, or other exhibits used in their oral testimony to be placed in the record, copies must be submitted to the city staff while the record is open. If they are not given to the staff, they will not be included in the record. Any person wishing a continuance to present additional evidence and testimony or to keep the record open to respond to new evidence must make that request before the public testimony portion of the hearing is closed. And there's more. If the Historic Review Board makes a decision with which you disagree, any issue that you may wish to appeal must have been raised on the record for the consideration of the City Commission or LUBA or both. Without raising the issue on the record with sufficient detail and accompanied by statements of evidence that the city and all parties can respond to, the issue will not be deemed appealable to the City Commission or the State Land Use Board of Appeals. In addition, the failure of an applicant to raise constitutional or other issues relating to proposed conditions of approval with sufficient detail to allow the local government or its designee to respond to the issue precludes an action for damages in circuit court. Now we will open the record for file number GLUA 23-0041 and HR 23-00012. I'm going to ask now for each member of the board if they have any ex parte contact, conflict of interest, bias, or other statement to declare or have visited the site. If there has been a site visit, the Historic Review Board must declare what he or she perceived. Board member Board member Edgar, do you have any conflict of interest, any ex parte contacts, or have you visited the site?
I have no conflicts of interest. I have visited the site.
Okay.
Okay.
Board member Green?
No ex parte contact. I have visited the site and no conflict of interest.
Okay. Board member Lawrence?
No ex parte contact. I have visited the site and I have no conflict.
Okay. And I'm the same. I have visited the site. I have no conflict of interest or ex parte contact in this case at all. So at this point, we will now commence with the staff report.
Okay, good evening. My name is Molly Gorin. I'm doing the staff presentation for the hearing item tonight, which is the request for replacement of 24 windows on the Petzold Richard B building, also known as the Petzold building, a local landmark as well as a designated structure on the National Register located at 714 Main Street. It's just a little delayed, so first, I need to add a public comment to the record, which was submitted to staff after the writing of the staff report. This is a public comment from Denise McGriff, submitted to staff on March 19th, after which the public comment was transmitted to the hearing review board staff. As a brief description, this comment calls attention to the portions of the Historic Review Board Policy Number 10 and the NPS Preservation Brief Number 9 that discuss evaluating the ability to repair original windows and assessing window replacement. Related to this public comment, staff has provided additional options towards the end of this presentation that the board may review in considering the documentation provided by the applicant and its, if it is sufficient to address the feasibility of window repair, or if more information is needed from the applicant. Okay. In looking at Historic Review Board policy concerning window repair and replacement, the policy generally allows for the replacement of original wood windows with wood, aluminum-clad wood, and fiberglass-clad exterior wood windows that match the original design when repair is not feasible. Such replacements can be made on a Type 1 staff level, except for structures that are individually listed on the National Register prior to 2017, and the Petzold, this is applicable to the Petzold building, which was individually listed on the National Register in March of 1992. Under HRB policy number 10, window replacement on the Petzold building shall be reviewed by the Historic Review Board. And the building is the only, I'll note that the building is the only commercial structure in Oregon City which is listed on the National Register, and is therefore the only commercial building to which this portion of the policy applies. And finally, aluminum-clad wood windows have previously been approved on locally designated commercial buildings in the McLaughlin Conservation District. And looking at the site location, the Petzold building is located on Main Street in the mixed-use downtown zone within the downtown design district at 714 Main Street. Abutting is an alleyway, and right abutting is another properties building. The Petzold building is a designated commercial structure in the Renaissance revival style. It's in good condition with many of the original elements intact. This image of the structure is potentially of the original design, taken just 1 year after its establishment in 1905. And this shows the original facade with the the two arched entryways. These images provided by the applicant are from circa 1991 and was likely a part of the National Register listing, and shows the existing entryway configuration, and also shows many of the windows that are requested for replacement. For the existing condition of the windows, 4 of the front facade windows are, well, to start, the windows requested for replacement include 24 wood windows, presumably original to the building. 23 of these are double hung 1/1 windows, and 1 is a small picture window. These windows include 4 second-story windows on the front facade and 11 windows on the alley-facing side facade. On the rear elevation, 2 of the windows are requesting to be replaced on the second story. And on the northeast facing side elevation, the second, there are 7, let me see. And on the other side, there are 7 windows requested to be replaced, including the small picture window shown on the rightmost side of that photo. The applicant also provided images of the details of the wood window deterioration. Additional existing condition photos can be found in Exhibit A of the staff report. These images of the existing deterioration are meant to demonstrate the infeasibility of window repair. Here we have the proposed window elevations from the proposed window supplier. Marvin Ultimate Double Hung G2 windows. These windows would be aluminum clad exterior, wood interior, double hung windows. The proposed windows would be 1/1 with a simple design and will not contain grouts or divided light. The window supplier does not have an elevation plan showing the double hung windows without divided light. So included is also a modified version of the image demonstrating what the window would look like without the muntins there. Here we have the section details, which may be hard to see, but showing the different options for placement in the existing frames. In looking at one of the details that these windows contain is the ogie lugs that are at the corner of the sashes of the double hung windows. These are also known as lamb's ears or sash lugs. This is a detail that the applicant hasn't originally proposed to include, but if the board, but the board may consider including a condition of approval speaking to the ogie lugs. If the board wishes to see additional information regarding the feasibility of window repair, then staff would recommend that the board move to continue the hearing to date certain of April 23rd, 2024, and extend the 120-day deadline for the decision and request that the applicant provide 2 bids for window repair as documentation for window repair feasibility. And if the board finds that the photos of the condition of the windows is sufficient as evidence of the infeasibility of window repair, then staff recommends the following conditions of approval: that the applicant is required to obtain all building permits for the alteration. Additionally, we provided if the board finds that the emission of the ogie lugs on some or all of the replacement windows would adversely affect the distinctive character of the building, then the board should utilize one of the following conditions in their motion. 1, prior to the issuance of building permits, the applicant shall submit plans that ensure the lugs details are included on the front facade windows. Another option being submitting plans that ensure the ogie lugs details are included on all public right-of-way facing windows, which would include the alley elevation, and then also an option to include the ogie lug details on all double hung windows. In conclusion, the options tonight in making a motion, 1, to approve the proposal and adopt the associated findings with conditions. 2, to approve the proposal with modified conditions and provide additional findings. 3, deny the proposal, close the record, and continue the hearing to April 23rd to adopt final findings. And finally, to continue the hearing to date certain of April 23rd, 2024. Request additional information from the applicant and extend the 120-day deadline to August 21st, 2024.
All right, thank you, Molly. Do we have any questions of staff at this point? Nope. I have a question. On the lugs, are they on every window currently or just the front facing? I couldn't see at the angle.
I couldn't technically see on the northeast facing side that's by the rooftop, but it appears that all the other double hung windows do, although I think maybe one on the rear does not.
Yeah, I think they're on the,
But I believe all of them
they're
do.
on the side windows too.
Okay, yeah, that's what I thought I saw.
Yeah.
Thank you. But yeah, so basically all the windows. So the comment about just the front facing, I wanted to address that. Okay. Okay, thank you very much, Well, I appreciate it. We'll have the applicant like to come up, say something. Name and address, please, or name and city of residence.
Thea Cutsforth, Canby, Oregon.
Jacob Corey, Canby, Oregon.
Oh, Jenna Edgington, Manzanita, Oregon.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead, you have the floor. What would you like to say?
So I'm with Henderson and Daughter. Jenna is the owner of the building, but Henderson and Daughter is the company that she's asked to work with for window replacement. Really just that our goal as a replacement company in guiding an owner, but also in the character of replacing windows, is to keep with architectural integrity. So our hope is that this presentation is pleasing. You know, we believe in a Marvin window. We feel like the historic relevance is accurate. We find that the quality of the window is substantially higher than many on the market. Sometimes people will recommend an all-wood window replacement, and in our experience, a first-generation old-growth wood, which is what we're replacing, coated with lead-based paint, can last 100 years. But the newer wood windows that are all wood windows are fourth generation, and they aren't as strong. So we believe in this aluminum-clad Marvin wood window. As Molly had mentioned, we do have an option to do the sash lugs if that's something that is recommended. Jenna can probably speak to the ability for repair. I know that was something that was part of the historic review and there are companies that can do repair. We don't do repair. I guess that can go for us or against us, but in all transparency, that's not something that Henderson and Daughter will do, is repair work. Jenna has looked into repair and she can speak to that. We specialize in window replacement. We've done many historic projects. So again, our intention would be to do a wood sash installation within the current pocket of the windows. We believe that we can repair exterior trim or sloped sills and using with the same detail profile, but the wood sash of the top and bottom sash are irreplaceable from our experience. I think that's it.
Okay. Jenna?
Hi.
Hi.
So in 2020, right at COVID, I did a major renovation of the downstairs area of the property. I don't know if you had a chance to poke your head into the barber shop, but it was an extensive renovation. We actually cored out all the grout in the original brick and re-mortared it and resealed it. It was a huge job. I had a local company, Brothers in Arms, Brandon Gregory, he owns that. He lives here in Oregon City. Do that renovation. I asked him to repair the windows as well as part of that project. He went out and could not find anyone to touch the scope of that project. I have I contacted Henderson and Daughters. They came from a reputable friend of mine that owns historic buildings in Portland, because I do want to preserve my grandfather. I inherited this building from my grandfather, and so it's kind of a passion project. So I was really happy to get their contact. They came out, looked at it. I trust the work that they will do. So yes, I have looked into repairing. It doesn't seem feasible. I have currently broken window panes in 1, 2, 3 of the windows. That, again, I haven't been able to find anyone to replace them. Like not just cracks, but actually holes in them. There's clear tape over them. I have one window that was replaced by my grandfather. I'm not sure when that was. It is not historic. And then I also get complaints from my tenants that they are unable to open and use any of the windows. And I guess that's neither here nor there, but it would be nice to open them. What else? Do you have any other questions for me? During that renovation in 2020, there were 3 interior walls in that downstairs, and I was actually able to expose the downstairs windows. So that was really neat. But yeah.
Okay, thank you.
I guess speaking to the lugs, what is the sash lugs? Sash lugs. My only concern there, we are upgrading the window, and again, it won't have the grid on the top. I think it'll look really handsome. My concern with the lugs are, we've already picked a higher end window going forward. These are all, well, the majority of the windows are second story, and I'm not sure that you would be able to see the lugs, and that would be a significant cost increase on top of what we're already doing, replacing 24 windows. The original bid was 46, and I believe that jumped up to 56 by going with a higher end window, $56,000. So trying to just be cost efficient and not cheap, but bang for your buck. But with a black window on the second story, it would add an additional hundreds of dollars to each window that I don't know if that would historically be necessary. So.
Okay. Thank you. Appreciate it. We'll have questions, I'm sure. Let's start on the end.
Yeah, I've got some questions. So with the Marvin windows that we're talking about, how are the OEs integrated into the upper sash when they are present? Or is it one solid piece of covering, or are they just attached afterwards?
They are attached afterwards, and I have 1 copy. I don't have 4, but I'm happy to bring it up to you.
And then I've got another question as well that we can probably discuss while we're passing this around, and that's, my second question would be, not on the windows themselves, but on the sill replacements and all of the trim. Do we have a proposed plan that, I know that we had said that we're trying to replace it as close as possible, and how accurate to as close as possible that is, because obviously it's an integral part of the entire appearance package of the window to see that. It looked like there was probably a 14-degree bevel and then a 3-step trim on those windows.
So the slope sill, we can replace exactly as is. The exterior trim, this sample is showing a brick mold, which is not historic. The trim that's on the building, I don't know that we can get exactly. We've worked on a lot of historic projects, so there are plenty of lumber mills in town that will do custom work for us. So I don't really know how to answer that. We can, submit an exact profile of it. It was similar to a shake mold.
Also, not all of the windows are trimmed the same. You can tell where there's been some repairs over the years where it's not all matching. So the intent would be to find what's the most likely the original, where it's probably most prevalent trim, and then match that as closely as possible, which if we can't get the exact match, it's pretty easy, even if we have to use multiple pieces of trim or modify them a little bit ourselves, to layer multiple pieces of trim to get the same or at least very close look. And that's the intent, is to get it to look as original as possible. So like she said, the slope sills can be replaced to look identical to what they look now, and then where the window sits, you'll, other than them looking brand new, wouldn't know that they were replaced. And then the trim along the same lines will replace as need be to match what we can determine is closest to the original look that it had. But currently they're not all identical. So to get it to truly a historical look, you'd need to replace some here or there as it is, for them to all match.
So that those trim elements would be wood and be painted to match the color of the aluminum, is that correct?
Yeah, they would be wood, and I would sure that she would be painting them to match the building, yeah.
Right, so you're not proposing like an aluminum wrap trim, it would be,
just as close to what's there as possible.
And the arch top fills over the windows, same thing, just replace them, yeah.
As necessary.
Any other questions?
Yes, I'm concerned about the fact that you say that they can't be repaired, or you've not found somebody that could do the type of repair that's appropriate. I know that there's some companies around here close by that are capable of doing window repair, historic window repair, and so the statement of saying you haven't found anybody kind of surprised me.
I had my contractor in 2020 dive in to do replacements, and he was unable to find anyone. Those windows have been broken since then. Find anyone who would do the scope of the project.
I know that there's a reputable company that will pull out windows and do all of the repair locally.
We have referred on a number of cases through several years Chosen Wood Window, which is a local company. I don't know that they have seen this project, but there have been times where Chosen Wood Window has referred a project back to us. Most of the occasions that we've had success with Chosen Wood Window have to do with operation. So a window that's painted stuck, a window that needs new weights, bouncers installed. So primarily operation and weights, not as much luck with a rotten out frame of a wood sash portion. Now again, I'm not a representative of Chosen Wood Window, and I don't know who Jenna has used in the past, but that has been our experience.
I just know that there are, I got a quote, I have an 1880 house, and so I had some of the old wavy glass, and I said I didn't want to maintain some of the windows. And I found a company, it was costing a lot of money at that moment. I didn't have the money, but I know that they were available, and that they would pull the window out and replace all of the wood that was needed to be replaced.
We also have had experience with glass crafters before, people that will replace single pane glass in a wood sash opening, but not a rotten wood sash opening. So if glass were the only issue, I would feel confident in recommending Jenna to contact a local glass crafter to replace broken glass. But again, in our experience with the rot of the current wood sashes, I don't have confidence that that would go.
As this is on the National Register, this is very important to us, and I would feel a whole lot more comfort in addressing new windows if I had a better understanding of a review, of all the windows, and you came to me, Jenna, and said, hey, I reviewed all these, we've looked at every window, it's 1 out of 20 can be saved. That makes more sense to me, rather than just having a construction guy say, yeah, I can't find anybody to do it. I mean, it's a National Register building. I mean, it's very important to the city. It's very important to Main Street. And I just don't feel comfortable just saying, yeah, go ahead and just change them all out when we don't know. We know there's problems, obviously, but it's an old building, so there's always going to be problems. I have an old house too, so and I know there are people that will do it. I would feel comfortable with getting a review of the existing windows and have someone say, show me that they're bad. Show me they're all bad and need to be replaced, or 50% of them can be fixed, or 1% of them. I don't feel comfortable just saying, yeah, go ahead and replace them on a building that is as historic as this building is, and it's on the National Register.
Is there any, so I've looked into the grant that the previous woman, it's $1,000 a year, which would not even cover one window in the building. Is there something out there available to help support this?
It's a good question. I don't know that for a fact.
So this project actually was on the National Register to take advantage of the special assessment program that the state of Oregon has for freezing assessed value, and I think went through actually the tax credit process, though I'm not perfectly sure, but I think it did. So that's kind of the option. However, I don't know if you can do it again, since they did it in the 90s, and you have to have a substantial rehabilitation project as part of it. So that's the State Historic Preservation Office and the National Park Service. So I'm not aware, unless they pursued that, and I don't know if this small of a project, because you have to spend at least equal to the valuation of the building on your rehabilitation project, which is a much bigger project.
Can that be retroactive?
And it cannot be retroactive.
Just procedurally, are we discussing, or are we?
No, we'll discuss within ourselves. This is just questions to the applicant at this point.
Yeah.
Any other?
No, I
Okay.
So I have one more
Go ahead.
question if we can. So with the products that you've looked at, I know that we're on Marvin right now, and it seems as though through your contractor, you've looked at fixing the windows. Have you sought out other companies such as the Sash Right or what's that, Versatile Wood Products up in Portland or anything like that?
I've contacted a handful. I had no luck with people even calling me back.
Sure.
And so I got a friend of a friend who owns apartment buildings in Portland. She gave me a reference.
Yeah.
And they answered the phone and came out the next day.
It can be frustrating to get anybody to answer, I understand.
But like no less than 10 people.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions of the applicant?
None from me.
Right. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
We'll bring it up here to the commission to discuss. Commission, I said. Yeah.
Just
go ahead.
in a professional sense, there's a couple things that are.
Oh, hey, Gordon, can you speak into?
Yeah, absolutely. The first thing that I'm thinking, just off cuff is, in preservation, we're talking about an envelope item. And so in the total aspect of the entire building, the windows being secure, sound, operational, and energy improved might be to be taken account into that, you know, water egress and things like that, environmental standards should be looked at. And obviously, I think we're all familiar with the Marvin product and know what it is and what it looks like. On the other hand, it's on the National Historic Register, and I think there are options out there for wood windows that are full wood windows that would be more appropriate to be installed in this particular building. I know that, for instance, Versatile up in Portland, they do a lot of work for Timberline Lodge and places like that, and I've actually priced out on jobs that, you know, what does it look like cost-wise, and we're within 20 to 30% of a standard Marvin window. So when I start looking at the Yogies and see that they're just add-ons and things like that, it would have been a different story, I think, if it was a full encapsulated part of the upper sash and it was built that way versus a stick-on part. That's a bit concerning to me. I understand what the applicant was saying about the color and the height and everything, but it's still an integral part of the, you know, original look. So I'd kind of like to see what was suggested as a review of what it would take to see what that looks like. And I understand what they're saying about old growth versus new wood products. Again, no affiliation with that company, but they do take old growth fir stock to create new windows with because of that precise problem. And I've used those windows before, and we're talking 32nd grain fir, straight grain. So that is old growth and impregnated with oils. So I look at it as a 50 to 75 year product. I love the idea of an aluminum or fiberglass clad wood window, double hung, no counterweights, operational, being able to tilt them in and out and clean and operate, and especially in living quarters. But that detail is really troublesome to lose. And I think during my interviews, I was talking about street facing. And so my first thought was, well, at least the street facing windows, we should probably take a look at differently. But talking about replacing every window in a historic registered building. So that's my 2 cents.
Green.
For one thing, I think that the street facade can be handled differently because the building is ornamented differently on the front, obviously more ornamented on the front. So, I mean, I think, in my mind, it's in reference to the lugs or the lamb's ears, however you want to refer to them. I would see it being a valid approach perhaps to using those on the street-facing facade, which is only 4 windows, and then not using them the rest of the way around the building. I concur that the a more holistic picture, we're seeing maybe half a dozen windows out of the 24, which are most likely the worst ones. That being said, those worst ones that we're looking at are all a type 2 or type 3 restoration. So, really, those are candidates for replacement of some kind. So the question then would be, how does that factor into the other 16 windows or whatever? If the other windows were mostly within a class 1 repairable condition, the economy would be one thing. If most of them are class 2 or class 3, that's not really economical feasible to pursue. I mean, that's replacement, in my view, of some product, either replacement with a new wood window or a new clad window.
It also means continuity.
What's that?
Continuity throughout the windows.
Yes. So in that case, if they were replacement wood windows that match the other ones and fix them. So we have a little bit of an unknown of what the rest of the windows are. So I mean, it does perhaps speak to an inventory of all the windows if we want to go that route. I will say that in the design guidelines, aluminum clad windows are an approved approach. So we need to be mindful of that. And based on the staff report, it sounds like, and I'd have to look back a little bit, but it sounds like there are other commercial buildings around that have utilized the aluminum clad windows. This one being a little bit of a standalone, being a registered building. I get that. But the other two factors that come to mind, a little what Gordon mentioned, the energy aspect, there are clearly some benefits with the clad windows as far as energy, functionality, long-term durability. So a commercial property owner is confronted with wood windows with more periodic maintenance, which means shutting down sidewalks, man lifts, and it's a bigger deal than a residential application to accommodate that. So that's a piece I think that's worth considering. So where you might say, does that place me? In the absence of seeing what the other windows are, in view of the fact that the clad windows are, you might say, an approved approach, I would lean towards approving them because of the long-term durability. The economic, we need to think of the whole of the building being maintained, the envelope, as you mentioned, in the best possible condition for the downtown area, for keeping tenants, viable tenants. So the comfort, the functionality all weigh into that. So I would lean a little bit towards the clad windows. That said, like I mentioned, I can see the front windows being handled differently, and I don't know what you guys' thoughts are. If the rest of the building was all consistent with the clad windows, if the front four windows were repaired or replaced with the integral lugs, and then the remaining windows around the building being clad without the lugs, I mean, you have set apart the front facade as a different, I mean, is that a valid approach? They would obviously need to be painted to match the other windows, so you might say at the casual glance, they essentially appear the same.
Board Member Edgar.
Well, I would love to see an inventory done of all of the windows, and I would like to see somebody who knows wood windows. Wooddale Windows it used to be here in Oregon City. They relocated out by the airport, and they took a window out of my house and took it over into their factory and duplicated it in all wood, but in low E glass. Mm-hmm. So I got all of the energy savings, and they duplicated the product exactly at the factory. The biggest problem is availability of time, slots, and labor and people, and so that's probably one of the biggest elements on the side that affects some of the decision making. So
Yeah.
what options can actually happen?
Yeah, in a reasonable, timely fashion, because,
Yeah.
you know, the time constraints are a burden.
But yet at the same time, right now, the odds are that the upper sash is probably not in bad shape.
Yeah.
Okay, it's the lower sash and the frame, a lot of the framing, but having a couple companies I know that are available to look at that, and if we had a continuance for, to the date certains as suggested, to extend the 120 days, but to give us a better assessment of actually what can be done to repair or to replace in all wood. I would, because this is a National Register History building, it just kind of deserves that final assessment where we take a look and they take a look and everybody comes to a consensus. What's the best decision? Right now, I don't know that we have all the facts on the table.
One thing, just from a commercial aspect, we're looking also at the viability for tenancy and the building in downtown. And so we have to look at that as well when we're talking about the costs associated with this. Because without the vibrant, economics that we're trying to bolster downtown, it starts becoming a moot point what the building looks like if there's no tenancy. And so if we can't afford to fix the building, then we have to. So I for one would love to see it all replaced in wood and have a maintenance schedule put in place and have creative woodworking, custom mill, exact profiles for the casework. I don't think that's fair to ask of the owners in the aspects of looking at the building. So it's tough. I think that we're on the same page, though, that we've got a street-facing facade. The alleyway is very narrow, and I don't know that it's as integral. I really don't like the idea of this additional detail on the window. I don't think it works. I think it looks cheap. And I think it's noticeable. I would rather not have it than put it on there and have it look that way. But that being said, I think it needs to be there. So it kind of eliminates the option for that for at least the face of the building. I think that we're looking at manufactured wood, all wood window with an integral, distinctive look. And I love the idea of having a review of just how in-depth this is. Looking at the pictures that we see, I agree, we're probably looking at the worst of it, but what we are looking at is pretty bad.
Okay, go for it.
Okay, well, first of all, obviously, it's a historic property, and we have, the Secretary of State tells us in preservation of historic properties that, we don't change it if we don't have to. My problem is I don't know if we don't have to. I just don't feel comfortable saying that, we need to change it. I just don't feel comfortable. I mean, I appreciate you've got comments from builders and things like that, but I would really like to see a thorough review of the windows and do we need to replace them or do we not need to replace them before I feel comfortable in approving that. Secondly, I like the idea of all wood windows. I don't think it's fair to make you put all wood windows all the way around, although it'd be wonderful. But the front facade, I think, is very important that we try and maintain it as we're told. It should be, if it's taken wood out, we should be putting wood back in. And I realize that we can use aluminum clad wood, and we've done it in other places, but a lot of those buildings were not historic on the historic register. So we're kind of weighing the importance of the historic register versus other buildings in our city that are also historic but not on the register. So I guess my feeling is if we could maybe extend this to a date certain, maybe staff could help identify some potential vendors that could do a review of the windows. And if we maybe even could get a quote on 4 wood windows on the front facade, if that even makes sense. But we'll just get more information before we make this decision. I love Marvin windows. I have no problem with the windows themselves. You just understand where we're coming from a historic standpoint. That's kind of my feeling on it.
I'm in concurrence.
So what I'm hearing is this would be up to the applicant to extend the 120-day. Would you mind putting the slide up? And really asking for the applicant to come back with 1 bid, 2 bids, but really what I'm hearing is a window assessment report looking at the condition of each window and then the recommended repair approach with a cost estimate. Knowing we have 30 days, I think 1 bid with a reputable historic repair person is probably a reasonable request other than 2 bids in this situation. We have on our website, we have a historic contractors repair list. It's not exclusive, so there may be people not on that list, but there's a fair amount of options.
Okay.
In that, Christina, in that, one of the things that the chair mentioned was looking at the possibility of having all of the wood windows in the front facade as one of the options. And I'm in concurrence. You know, sometimes in a trade-off, that could be a reasonable part of making some things happen.
Either a repair of those wood windows or replacement with more in-kind wood windows.
With the identical product.
Yeah, okay.
We could look at that.
So the applicant
Yeah,
should
right.
look at
So
that as an alternate approach as well.
I'm wondering, among us, if we're comfortable with, if the applicant wants to move forward, in other words, timeliness aspect, would we be comfortable with the clad windows on the 3 sides of the building and then require that the front 4 windows be either repaired or replaced in kind with the lamb tongue?
I love the idea of that, but I think we still need to see that report of.
Yeah, I still like to see the report.
I have a question. Christina, your experience is vast, unlike mine. But we've never, as far as I know, even when I was planning and historic review board, I've never done that where we've separated the front facade from the rest of the building on a national register product. I'm wondering what you're feeling on that.
I don't know. I mean, I'm going to say something you probably won't like, but just because it's on the National Register doesn't mean we have other commercial buildings that are locally designated that are also eligible for the National Register. So how I look at it and how the Park Service actually looks at it in SHPO is buildings that are eligible for the National Register, regardless if they're on or are looked at as the commercial buildings. So because this one is actually on, I would look at our buildings, on 7th Street, kind of with that same lens, is this an adequate replacement? One thing I wanted to add is with the staff email that was sent this week with Denise McGriff's letter, I actually added a screenshot of a page from the National Park Service that looks at how to think about window replacement in commercial products. Tax credit projects happen all over the country that do full replacement of windows with aluminum clad wood windows, especially when they're on the 2nd story and above. There's also a little bit more care on the ground floor because I think exactly what Board Member Lawrence said, which is this is a commercial property, and what Board Member Green said, this commercial property, the expectations for energy efficiency and really being a habitable, tenantable building for long-term maintenance is a standard approval. It's really approving this particular aluminum clad wood window appropriate. I'd recommend if the board wants to continue this, when they come back and you look at the assessment and look at kind of the little white paper about how the Park Service thinks about aluminum clad wood windows, they do have an assessment of like how important is this elevation, how close is it to pedestrian level, how much ornamentation does it have, and that's how they kind of, it's like a flow chart and how to think about it. So potentially, yes, you could do that, and that's okay, because you're kind of thinking through how important is this window sill, I mean, these sashes, to the significance of the building.
Integrity of
And so things that are less ornamental are easier to replace, or less kind of main facade, or less integral to the overall architecture.
Well, and plus, I mean, there have been modifications made to the building, right, down on the street level.
Yeah, and so I think what the applicant's proposing and thinking about finding, the replacement, and then looking at matching the wood trim as much as possible, and always, there's never a consistent trim, because people always made changes over the years, and you're chasing to figure out which one. So that's very standard, to try to pick the one you think is the one to match the rest. That's a very good approach. But on its balance, buildings on the National Register that go through the tax credit process are allowed to have aluminum clad windows. It's the details that you can talk about.
Right. And I'm not adverse to the windows. I mean, these replacement windows, I'm not adverse to putting those in there. That's really not it for me. I'm just not, like I said, I'm not comfortable knowing that it has to be done just yet. You know, and if I can get that, I'd feel a lot more comfortable about making a decision.
I would love to see a continuance if the applicant would agree to it so that we could do a little bit better understanding of survey of all the windows.
I saw
and have somebody look at the repair or replacement selectively through what could be done affordably in all wood.
I have a continuity issue. So if say we have 20% of the windows are solid, we can fix them, keep them, make them work. At this point, we're not talking about the street-facing facade, because we're all, I think, in agreement that needs to be handled in a separate manner that's identical to what exists. So if we're talking about the other three sides of the building, then if we have a percentage that are okay to be replaced, that creates a continuity issue and a functionality issue with the rest of the windows. And not that I don't think it's important to have that assessment done, but we're also asking a lot at that point for something that, if the assessment comes back, which I'm sure it would, that a bunch of these windows need to be replaced, I wouldn't want to see different windows going throughout the run of the window run. Even though they're original, it would make more sense, I think, aesthetically, to see all of those windows be continuous, so that you do get the benefits of what we're dealing with. We're talking about a window that's 100 years old, that is at the end of its lifespan, and even if it was refurbished, we're adding life support to that window and sill versus replacing with modern technology. And the biggest one is going to be functionality, because we're going from a counterweight system to a spring system. And so this is something to consider. I love the idea of the review. I don't know. It seems like we could agree to move forward with construction on three sides of the building while we review the front of the building. That's just an option.
Board Member Green.
I suspect that what he's mentioning is an important factor, because if you want to get dual glaze windows, current weather stripping and all that, that basically means that the sash will all have to be replaced. So then the frames can be repaired, but all the sash would have to replace, which will be considerably more money than the clad windows. So there's
no question.
Another potential factor that I see there, perhaps for this client, but perhaps for other clients, and that is, at some point, if the ask is beyond reach, you may wind up with all of nothing and rather than some of something, if you get what I mean. In other words, if it becomes undoable, you can wind up with a scenario, okay, we can't do this, so we're gonna slap a coat of paint on it, do a little caulking, and kick the can down the road, and we don't want to see that result either.
In critical thinking, you're pushing me really hard. Your logic is making sense, but I would go with the pulling the front out and as a separate issue, and doing and getting that assessed in wood, and
I would agree with that. I mean,
and letting it go, letting the rest go. It's not like I don't care a lot. That concerns me. Because this is a National Register building, but
That's what we're talking about, the building.
This is the economics of everything, and timing and people and everything that it's going to take to do some of these things right now are awfully hard.
If they were to replace with the clad windows on the three sides, if they were to replace with the clad windows on the three sides, and commit to repair or replace the front four as they are, with a wood window, with the lamb's tongue. The fact that facade is different, I think we're kind of coming to that. That's okay and appropriate. I'm just looking if there's a way we can get them on the road with that approach. In other words, say, okay, go forward with the three sides with the clad windows, but part of the requirement is that the front windows are repaired or replaced. And that would be their choice then, if they're repairable and they want to be single glazed, putty, that's fine. Or if they want to replace the sash with a dual glaze sash and still be back to the same exact configuration with the lamb's ears and so forth. I mean,
I would agree with that.
Yeah, I would second that. I mean, I think that we were talking about preserving a building and making a massive improvement that someone's willing to make.
Yeah.
And that goes to the point of, that goes to getting that you get a little bit of something instead of all of nothing.
Yeah.
Because we have someone willing to do the work, and it's tough to tell someone no on that. I think that we do have a big caveat on the front of the building. I really think that's an important thing. And maybe we even set that aside for a separate approval, but I'd be willing to motion to approve three sides of the building to move forward with the product proposed, and then say that there needs to be a study done on the front of the building and a proposal separate from what we're doing now.
Can we separate it?
So
I'm not sure we would need to separate it.
So
Okay.
I would have the condition of approval for the front be very specific for what you're looking for. And if they
we
can
can do that.
provide that through the staff level review, then that's fine. If they can't provide that through the staff level review, then we would send it back. But if they cannot repair the front four, and they said, I was just talking to the applicant, and they are amenable to this approach.
Sure.
If they cannot repair the front four, and they do need to replace it, then then provide the specificity of the type of window you're looking for. If they can then meet that, they'll stay at a staff level. If just it's not working or
Sure.
the thing or the cost, they would come back.
And I think we can provide that.
But that would be a new,
amount
just,
of
that would be
specificity.
a new application, a new $50 plus $20 notice. So it'd be a new $70 application.
Okay.
So
Do we want to?
I would make a motion, see if this sounds right,
Okay, go for it.
or you got something?
I just wanted to see if we want to bring the before we do that, let's bring the applicant back and have that discussion
Yep.
there.
Absolutely.
Thank you for listening to us.
Do you want to speak to this, or do you want me to speak to it?
So are you comfortable with what we've been discussing?
I'm comfortable with moving forward. I am 100% on board with doing the 3 out of the 4. My concern about, I'm happy to do the front 4 windows different. My only concern is one of the office is a corner office, and so I'll have 2 different types of windows in that office, which may or may not be a problem.
Well, potentially. If the front's let's say a repaired or a wood window, and the other one is the clad.
Yeah.
I mean, you're missing maybe the lambs there. You're maybe missing, you're still going to have to match the sill.
Right.
Right.
Now
I like the
you're thinking of the interior, is that what you're thinking
the
of?
interior, and also the sun. I would love to replace the glass on that side. The sun just hammers in for efficiency. I would love for them all to be the same, ultimately.
You can still replace the glass inside in doing these types of things. I think that there's an ability for you to get the type of glass that you want into a wood frame that matches. And it will look just like what you have, but it'll be the glass that you want.
Right. And then I have 9, 10, 11 different tenants in the building. So my goal, as I've discussed right off the bat, like this needs to happen on 1 to 2 days so that we disrupt their business as little as possible.
It's like when I have a commercial building in Portland, and we have break-ins, and I go in there and slam in a snatch and grab plywood. And that's what you have to do. So there may be a moment when you have plywood sitting in the window opening for a while you're working through something, but that's kind of what happens.
Construction.
Well, yeah, speaking of construction, I think from the interior, the Marvin window being the clad window on the outside, the wood on the inside, and then if we replace the front 4 windows with all wood sashes, those wood sashes would be custom made anyway, so we could make them look identical. You're still going to get the functionality if they were replacement. You would get the functionality of a spring hung window versus a cord hung window. So I think functionality-wise, aesthetics-wise, everything on the inside of the building would look the same on the inside. On the outside, which is what we're concerned the most about here, is that we would have the wood, bogies, the whole window done, and those could be ordered. I mean, I know a couple companies right now that would build them right away, and we could have them ready to be installed with the rest of the package, or those can be installed at a later date, those 4 windows. I think it's a really good option to move forward with the project.
I think this is a really good option too. I do have a couple of questions to seek the clarity. So I understand the 3 sides of the building. One of the things that really resonated with me that I heard you kind of wrestling with is that idea of continuity from the street level. So one of my questions in regards to the 4 windows in the front, I'm hearing a few different things, so I just want to get clarity. Are you recommending like a tilt pack? Or are you recommending this window, this clad window is available in an all wood window from Marvin? It's not first generation wood. Or are you recommending a specialty like chosen wood window or one of these that you guys Wooddale windows that would literally rebuild the sash and insert it just as a sash, which would still be a single pane? I'm just trying to get clarity. I hear that continuity is important, but I hear that the front of the building, that historic is really important too. So I want to make sure that I'm clear on how to guide forward.
I think that what Christina was saying about making sure that we have a very clear path forward, unless Marvin offered that in a wood window that did have the integral Ogies, not the additional Ogies.
So that's the part that I'm not 100% sure on. I would say I'm 90% sure, but if...
But that could be a staff level thing.
So that's not a condition of approval, what I'm seeing.
Sure.
Maybe, would you mind advancing to... Okay, Okay, what I'm seeing is the prior... sorry, I can't see, I'm too old. Prior to the applicant submitting plans, ensure that the, basically, you're saying that the Ogie lugs are not required on
the 3 sides.
Non-facade elevations,
Just
right?
on the front.
So that's the first, that's going to be the revised finding. So the Ogie lugs are not required on non-Main Street elevations.
Mm-hmm.
2, you're requesting that the applicant either repair the existing Main Street elevation windows or replace in kind with wood windows that have an integral Ogie lug built.
Yes.
Correct.
Okay, so if the applicant can do that, they don't have to come back to you.
Right.
If they look and it just isn't working and the cost is like some ridiculous amount and they're having trouble, then they can come back to you.
Yes.
Okay, so really the 2 conditions of approval, 3, because you get building permits required. So building permits required, no Ogie lugs required on non-Main Street facade. And then on the Main Street facade, the upper windows can be repaired. And that can include adding a secondary window, like Chosen Wood Windows does have a slimline project where you can put a window in, a second, or a replacement in kind with integral Ogie lugs on the wood window.
Yes. Correct.
Christina, I tried to draft some wording. I'll read that and see if it works. I'll just read this whole thing and then you can tell me if it works or not. So board motions to approve GLUA 23-0041 / HR 23-0012 to allow the replacement of 3 sides of the building, excluding the front facade, with the applicant's proposed aluminum-clad wood windows, with the addition of the condition for the applicant to assess the front facade windows as to the ability to repair the windows. If the windows cannot be repaired, the applicant shall submit a manufacturer's specification of all wood window with integral, I heard 2 things, lamb, and Ogie lugs. Sorry.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Is that about get it?
That's what I'm looking at,
Does that sound right,
I have a
Christina?
question.
Go ahead.
What I just heard was that the front 4 facade should first be attempted to be repaired. But then a minute ago, what I heard was the continuity is good if we can get those 4 in an all wood replacement with an integral Ogie lug.
Well, right, so repaired if possible. If not, if it's too damaged, then replacement with an all wood.
Who determines that?
I think we're saying that would be the applicant's option to repair or replace in kind. In other words, you don't have to try to repair, because I can see the functionality of replacing the sash with insulated glass and the spring. So I think that the the way it was stated is correct to, so should we make it a motion? Is that, is that essentially
That would
what?
be to amend rather than the applicant
Yeah.
has the option to repair.
Yes,
Or
Or
replace.
replace.
Right, thank you for
In-kind
clarifying that.
right. Repair or replace at the applicant, but with in-kind. Right. Okay. Okay.
All right, so who'd like to make that motion?
I will move.
We have the documentation, I think, so.
Yes, I will move to approve 230041, HR 230012, to replace the windows on 3 sides of the building with the aluminum clad Marvin windows, and the front 4 windows on the front facade will be repaired or replaced with like-kind wood windows with the integral lamb's ear OG lugs.
I second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second.
Board Member Edgar,
Approve, yes.
Board Member Lawrence,
Yes.
Board Member Green,
Aye.
and Board Member Powell.
Aye. All right, passes.
They're functioning.
Thank you very much. We appreciate you. And by the way, thank you so much for the work you've done. The building looks, it does look great. A little bit of graffiti I noticed today, but what are you gonna do? But I did walk by and look at the barber shop, and they were motioning me in, and I said, no, I don't really think. I don't know why. But thank you.
Thank you. Good luck.
All right.
Lawrence, you can head out.
Yeah, I'm gonna excuse myself. Thank you, guys.
Thanks.
Okay,
Take care, everyone.
just 3 is our minimum,
No, there's
right?
one more.
Okay.
And there's one more.
All right, let's move on then to the work session.
Thank you all. That's a hard one, but
That was-
appreciate all your thoughts.
Yeah.
So while we don't have the whole board here, we are gonna go over a little bit about the solar panels and I'll kind of read out Sorry, I have my mic off, apologies. This is reopening the work session to talk about solar panels and amending the HRB policy number 12. So I have a very, very short presentation, like 4 slides.
There we go.
All right. Okay, so we're back this evening to talk about one of the Historic Review Board's work plan items. This was added to the work plan to look if there are additional options for type 1 review of solar panels. And there's been a number of work sessions and discussions by the board, and so really tonight is looking for direction. So really, I kind of see 2 options. One is to proceed with a public outreach process and adopt revisions to HRB Policy 12 to allow some additional options for a staff level review. Or 2, it's perfectly reasonable. The board can retain the current policy and continue to monitor the issues throughout this work plan and determine if they want to pursue additional changes either later in the work plan or in a new work plan. I do want to let the board know we have 2 solar panel applications coming up next month. So you'll definitely, this is still going to be an issue, regardless of what you choose to do. So why are we here? Well, solar panels on visible elevations of historic buildings are becoming more acceptable nationwide, and definitely due to a growing awareness and want by the community for more green opportunities for energy production. And there's really been a change both locally and nationally to view that solar panels are going from they must always be shielded to view to thinking of more of like a temporary addition onto an historic building. And so with that kind of change in how some people look at solar panels, how does that reflect our policy right now? So right now, the historic review of our policy really is looking at placing solar panels on secondary elevations or rear elevations. And so we've had some work to date. We started on August 11th at a camp presentation that looked at the city of Denver's approach to solar panels. It was really a big cry from the Denver community to allow more options for solar panels on historic resources. The board adopted the work plan in September that added this to the work plan. And both November and February had work sessions. Through the November and February work sessions, there wasn't kind of a clear historic review board direction. And so at the last February meeting, the board members asked me to kind of put together all the information to date. And so closed in your agenda is kind of a white paper, which is really just an accumulation of all the discussion to date and kind of options. And so really looking forward this evening is there consensus to move forward? Do you want to continue to monitor this approach, or do you see that there are some opportunities for additional type 1 review? Chair Ferry was not able to make it this evening and sent an email to the Historic Review Board, and I would like to read this into the meeting. So here are my comments on altering HRB Policy 12 to include additional locations which can be approved with a type 1 proceeding. Reasons for altering HRB Policy 12. 1, it would eliminate barriers to solar installations such as the fees associated with presenting at the HRB meeting and the required attendance of board meeting along with the possible anxiety of presenting to the board. 2, less work for staff. And 3, it would provide clearer guidance to applicants if there are other configurations the board would approve without the formality of a meeting. The change I could see moving forward would be number 3, solar panels on visible primary side elevations are allowed, provided they are not installed on the front third of a roof plane. I think it might be wise to include a condition that solar panels should not be installed within 5 feet from the edge of the eave in the case of smaller roofs. Also, at the National Alliance of Preservation Commission's PowerPoint document from August features an image on the title page which has solar panels on a gable front porch. I think solar panels would not be installed on the front porch roof without board approval, and maybe clarity could be given that the front 1/3 or 5 feet starts at the primary front elevation rather than the front of the projecting porch. I also think we might exclude mansard roofs, which is fine. I don't think we really have any mansard roofs in Oregon City as a type 1 approval. And hip and gambrel roofs. We might want to keep mansard roofs approval as a type 3, given that mansard roofs is such a prominent defining feature. Thanks for passing along my comments and look forward to hearing from what my fellow board members think about moving forward with this change. Sorry, I can't be with you all. One thing I wanted to add in this discussion, just to keep more things to add to it, the board approved the work plan that looked at compatible change, which is a project that was put on hold during COVID a little bit, and that was revising the definition for new construction in our conservation district. And we received a grant to help hire a consultant to help us with that through our Certified Local Government grant. So if the board wants to move forward with pursuing the solar panel, that's great. Staff can work on that. Just know that we have kind of both that going and then potentially this compatible change moving forward. So just looking at kind of staff time and what would you rather do first. The compatible change could start as late as this fall. But that would probably be the latest it could start and still meet our grant deadlines.
So I had my mind all made up until now. So now we have another option here with that if we have a compatible change person coming in and can work with us on that, and we can include this into that discussion.
They're really two different things.
Okay.
So my one worry is convoluting the conversation. So compatible change is really the definition of new construction, which is right now a standalone building of 200 square feet or an addition of more than 30%. So in the previous conversation about compatible change, it was, well, what happens if it's less than 30%, but you add something that's 25 feet tall, so is there something related to massing or height involved in that definition? And that's kind of what the Historic Review Board was looking at prior to COVID. So that's kind of a whole conversation of when the board looks at larger additions and new construction in McLaughlin, which is a little bit different than I'm a historic homeowner and I want to put solar panels. So while we could do both at the same time, I do worry about complicating the message to the public.
And I've been thinking about this since the last meeting, and honestly, that what I came up with was basically what Chair Ferry said, almost word for word, other than the fact that I felt like having a public outreach over really the only thing we disagree with is just the one thing, and it just doesn't make sense to me to pursue that with which could be an expensive ordeal and time waste, in my opinion, because you're going to come back with just convoluting it is more what I'm worried about. So, I mean, what my thoughts are exactly what Chair Ferry came up with and I think that to change what we currently have, everything seems to be okay except for these changes that she's made, in my estimation. The roof, the back third, or the front third, can't use that. I mean, I think that goes a long way to ease my concerns. I don't think we need to. I personally don't think we need to push it any further. I think if we can make changes to it and retain our current one with these minor changes, I think we'll be able to move forward a lot faster and give staff a lot more flexibility, which is what we're trying to accomplish here.
Well, I don't think we can make changes. That's the issue, unless we go through this process.
So I think what I'm hearing is, tell me if I'm wrong, that you're saying that the changes are not that complicated. They're small revisions to the policy. So what that means is we would, a lot like we did for the design guidelines for new construction, middle housing that the board did last year, is we would come up at a future Historic Review Board meeting, which will not be next month because we have a packed meeting. So at a future May or June Historic Review Board meeting, staff would present a red line that kind of incorporated these comments into the existing policy. We would make sure we notice both neighborhood associations and encourage them to attend, kind of give them a big enough heads up as possible. The board would make a tentative approval. We'd send it up to the city commission for proposal, because even though the board can adopt HRB policies, we want to be in line with our elected officials. So we make a presentation in the summer and then come back at the next available HRB meeting and adopt it. So it is not that complicated if it's only a small tweak, but it still will involve making sure, a couple more meetings by the board to have a proposal, agree on it, get to the city commission, come back, approve, make sure we keep both neighborhood associations moving forward through the process.
In my mind, I think we're getting to kind of a small slice, because to start with, the historic buildings that get solar application are a small percentage of the Oregon City buildings that get solar applications. And then the slice that we're talking about is those that might fall in this gray area, should they be type 3 or type 1. So I guess I hate to see too much staff time and because I think we're within the realm of tweaks. Basically, the policies are, I don't think we want to wholesale say everything's type 1 with them on the front and so forth. So we're two things occurred to me, two questions that would, you might say, trigger the necessity of change, and that is either are the constraints of the existing policy unduly burdensome to the public, or are the referrals to the board overwhelming the board? And I don't think either are occurring at this point. Now that, if there was a big run of solar panels that could change, but at this point, I don't see that the existing policies are unduly burdensome, because if they put them on a secondary structure or whatever like that, they get the type 1 approval. It's just if it's iffy, it comes to the board.
I have a question.
Sure.
And going back to the 101 of not detracting from a historic building and doing something when I add a solar panel, but if I add the solar panel to a garage, a separate building, but it's still part of this historic, it will say Kanema is a historic area. So how do I separate an accessory building from, in the context of saying I don't want to detract from the district and the historic architecture that's represented in the...
Well, I think that's what Denver, and other communities are saying, that these solar panels, assuming that they are flat, and, we're talking the ones the standards that we require for our solar panel, that they are a temporary, add-on to the architecture of the building, and don't necessarily adversely affect the resource, even if it's on the main one. Barring kind of like right in the front if you had a front gable, or like this mansard. I think separating out an accessory building and the main, I don't think that changes if something adversely affects it when it's not on the front elevation. Maybe a visible, if a side gable. This is really most of what this conversation is the visible side gable. The larger issue is, and I think Board Member Powell really brought it up, which is how do you balance people getting enough square footage for a solar project to pencil? When you send it just on accessory buildings or the rear, sometimes based on where the configuration of the building is, they're never going to pencil unless you put it on that side. So really, the larger thing is do you want to see those? Or do you want to amend the HRB policy for that back half is okay, of that side gable? Both are perfectly reasonable approaches. I think this whole conversation is great because it's kind of furthering this discussion of like what really is something we're worried about. And this kind of middle stuff, are there areas that can help property owners move faster through the process because we kind of already know it won't adversely, won't provide that impact? Or are there areas where we do want to see it? And so I think that front third makes a lot more sense. But you can also, there's 2 more solar panel applications coming this next month. You can continue to monitor it. These are all reasonable approaches. Just know that once you give direction, it'll take a couple of meetings to amend the policy.
Right.
Well, the cost of electricity right now and how it's gone up, the justification now is changing
towards solar panels.
Towards solar panels.
But the other piece of that is solar panels sales basically ride on tax credits. And if that gets diluted or taken away, the market will go away. So in other words,
Sure.
We can't look in the future and say, here comes a train, because we don't know that there is a train,
No, but I do think we need to be prepared for that train because
we do.
Tax credits. Because I can assure you, if the electricity rates continue to climb as they climb,
there'll be more.
Salem's going to hear about
There'll be more.
And all of a sudden there'll be the tax credits may be something that will continue at even higher rate, and then we're going to be faced with it.
Yeah.
So while it's not a big problem, now's the time to talk about it. Right? Now's the time to face it.
I just putting a solar panel on the front of a very historic house right next to the street, that to me, call it temporary or not, it alters, it's more severe than those lugs on the windows
Yeah.
that we were talking about.
So you feel that those still should be a type 3 application?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think that they should be a type 3, and I just,
So I don't see that if we were going to do a change that required public input and so forth like that, it would be a specific, significant change that, am I correct, that would actually lessen the requirements. In other words, what we're discussing here, there's two things happening. One, of course, as board members, we want good guidance. So when we have applications come to us, that we make good, appropriate, consistent decisions. But the question here, as far as the standards, if I'm understanding this correctly, is do we want to essentially relax the standards so that more of these are type 1 applications, which actually puts more burden on staff, as I see it. Maybe, okay, iffy, but I don't think we're that far off on the basic guidelines that we need anything more than just some tweaks, if some tweaks without getting into a
I think
procedure.
that wording that you were using there was appropriate. Type 1 that does not, the point is the definition between type 1 and type 3.
Right.
Okay, and how we can frame that type 1 to allow those decisions to be
Right, which is spelled out, you might say, in the policy number 12. So the question is, do we see an area we want to significantly relax it and move what would be, as of now, a type 3 application and move it back to just a staff level decision? And I'm not seeing any specific things less restrictive that we,
I would say one thing we need to also think about is if you have a 5-foot setback, right, from where you have to put these, is that going to pencil out for a lot of people? Because that roof, like some of these examples, you move this roof back 5 feet, that may not pencil out. They may not be able to use that roof facing. They may have to go back beyond it, or it may not work for them.
I concur, absolutely. I honestly think, I don't struggle with, it has to be 5 feet back, 10 feet back. And I was looking at I mentioned this last time, I think, at the Denver ones. So you can't see this, Christina, but they can here. So here's one they say is, is not good. Okay, yeah, you got it. Because it's up. But it's up forward because that's where the solar gain is. I would rather see that than this.
Sure,
You see what I mean? It's all carved up, so we could, as a board, if an application, so if the default type 1 requirement is 5 feet back and the applicant wants to apply for something closer, we can approve that. Isn't that correct?
Yeah, the board can approve any proposal by the applicant. I think, I'm hearing lots of different options in there.
Yeah.
Maybe we start with what Board Member Ferry recommended and see if there's consensus.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I was talking about.
Board Member Ferry recommends that a type 1 be allowed on a side gable roof. So you're not getting the front gable, you're getting a side gable roof.
Right.
A visible side gable roof. The back third, the front third could not be, so if you have a 30-foot span, the front 10 feet couldn't have solar panels.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
So that is, and once again, this is a direction to move forward, so this is not, we don't have to wordsmith tonight. So is this something the board would like to see amended as a type 1, where basically you can have just on side gable roof pitches, the visible side gable put back, basically the back 2/3 can have the solar panel. That's really what
I see.
the option that Chair Ferry picked out as a potential
Okay,
type one.
yeah, and that's
At staff
consistent.
level, I think I like the ratios. That's a great ratio because you're really talking about proportionality and impact. So regardless, if it's a small or a big, you're assuming you have that ratio. To me, that's a very reasonable thing that staff can do on a type 1 level.
Sure.
So you have accessory building, you have any rear, and then you have that back 2/3. You could also continue to monitor and decide later. So both are good options. If you wanted to move forward with that, back 2/3, it would be as I explained. I come back at a future work session with a red line. The board would approve the red line or revise the red line, send it to the city commission, let's make a small presentation, make sure we include both neighborhood associations in that conversation, and then come back and adopt it. The board could also sit and wait and review a couple more solar panels applications and see if it's settling that way. But what I would not recommend is combining the compatible change project outreach with this. We would just need to kind of keep them separate.
That makes sense. Yeah. I like her recommendations. I like moving that to the front third. I think, as I said, I think it won't, in some cases, on some of these roofs, it won't pencil out. And it won't even be an issue. You can make that determination as a type 1. If they want to move it up.
And if they want to request it, they can come to us and we look at the thing, they make a case for it. Hey, this is the only place we're going to get sun and make this work, then we can approve it on a case-by-case basis. So am I understanding correctly then that you can do that red line, we review it, you present it to the council without going through the larger procedure that...
Well, we still want to reach out. We still want to include, this is really a technical refinement based on a couple years of working on the policy. The solar panel HRB policy was done when all the policies were rewritten, so it was kind of in this big outreach. But we didn't have a solar panel policy, so it was, if you don't see it, we can approve it. So that was a big change in this in the last round. So this is really a refinement of that. But we still we'll need to reach out.
Right.
We not have to, you won't have an open house or
It's still a work in progress because the technology is evolving. And again, it may not pencil out. And you've got all of the tax savings and things that could play in. We don't know how everything's going to be.
Yeah, we know.
And that's really the only one we had any issues with so far as a group.
And
so I think I love those that whole discussion. I think it makes sense. I think the 1/3 of the roof gives Christina an accurate decision-making point, and make that type 1. And if they choose to say, well, that's not going to work for us, can we go to the commission? Well, go to us, then sure, go ahead. Then it's type 3.
So, to move forward in that direction, Christina, then the next step would be you would come back with that red line. We'd look at that as a board again, and so...
What you would review a red line, tentatively approve the red line changes. We would work with Aquila Hurd-Ravitch, our community development director, on getting a slot at the city commission meeting. It'll probably be this summer.
And then...
And presenting that you're making these changes, just so we can continue to be, as the same we did for the middle housing design standards. Come back, make the formal adoption.
Sure.
So that there are potentially 4 applications in front of the board next month. So I would recommend doing this in the May meeting.
Could we have a memo if on type 1, if this ends up being, we're proceeding ahead in that manner as I think we want to do, but could we have a record where we get a chance to just take a look at what's happening that's in type 1?
No.
It's one or the other. I think it's one or the other.
Type 1s are ministerial, they're done through the building permit process.
Yep.
It's a mathematical.
It's kind of like I would love to see what is being proposed and done, so that there's an assessment as how well all of this is working. I don't know.
Well, I think really the only thing that's going to vary is this right here. I mean, everything else can stay the same.
Okay.
I mean, I don't see any changes other than the front third of a roof plane where you can't on a side gable. And the other thing is on the smaller roofs, within 5 feet, which is going to do the same thing from the smaller roof, and the porch. You know, that'd be a type 3. If somebody wants to put it on a front porch facing the street or something, then there would have to be.
I would recommend, because we'd have to just define what smaller porch is. I would just stay with the back 2/3. And then if it's a smaller building, they may have to come.
Okay.
Just because we'd have to define what a smaller roof means, and that's too complicated.
Yeah, that makes it more complicated, agreed.
But at the porch and so, I mean, I'll put together what the red line would be at the May meeting, and I'll include all of our work to date in the background. And you can decide if you want to, I mean, you'll have 2 additional solar panels under your belt by then, so it might provide more clarity what you want to do.
Okay.
Well, do you have, I mean, you don't need a motion for that. I think you just need
No, I think I have direction, yeah.
Okay.
I won't be here next meeting. I might be able to Zoom it, I'm not sure, but we're going on a cruise and I think we're at sea, so unless I can...
Yeah, like we want to see you at sea while we're working.
I don't care, but I don't know if I can pull it off.
You might not be able to.
I'm not very technical.
Okay.
So I'm getting direction. I'll return in May with some red lines, and then based on your direction, we'll move forward with, and I'll make sure to include both Kenema and McLaughlin into this conversation.
Yes, that's
Good. Thank you.
That's how I feel too. That's good.
Okay.
Okay, let's see. Let me go back to where I'm supposed to be here. We have something else coming up here.
Just some communications.
Just communications?
Yeah, so May is Preservation Month. We're almost there.
Again?
And every year, the Historic Review Board gives out the Ruth McBride Powers Preservation Award for either a rehab project that the board saw, really compatible new construction, or to honor folks in our city that are passionate about preservation. It could be a person, it could be a project. Sometimes, and there was one a couple years ago where it was just a lovely homeowner who did a restoration of their home that obviously didn't have to come in front of the board because they were not needing any approval. So all of those are options. What we like to do is I'll send an email out for a request for nominations. So over this next couple weeks, start thinking about who you would nominate, and kind of by the end of April, mid-end April, I'll need you to come in and it will not be reply all, but you will send me your recommendations. And if there's a pretty strong consensus, then I'll reach back out to the board and let them know, and then I'll reach out to who the awardee is. It's usually awarded either the first or the second city commission meeting in May, depending on just logistics. Yep. We do a proclamation at the May 1st City Commission meeting, and then we'll either provide the award, or at the second City Commission meeting in May, we'll provide the award based on logistics. So look out for an email from me probably next week that solicits, and start thinking.
Okay, we will do that. All right, anything else? Anything from the board? No? All right, well, with that, then I will adjourn the meeting. Thank you very much.
And thank you for all your hard work today.